second. And we are live. What's going on out there, YouTube family? I am back. I've got a guest here, and we are about to go in on this title, which the title is Theory of and About Zack Snyder, Warner Brothers, and HBO Max. I'm not gonna really be the person that's kind of plugging this theory necessarily, but I will be platforming it and adding to it as best I can. But Lucas Moore is here, and I'm just gonna say this out front. Lucas and I have a difference of opinion, or even just thought, when it comes to, Zack Snyder as well as the Justice League. But at the same exact time, Lucas is one of the best critics that I know, and Lucas has always been, sincere and efficient in the way that he lays out his opinions. And that's the reason why I wanted him here. Lucas is not here to bash. Lucas is not here to kind of condemn. He is just here to present the theory, which I think is probably the most interesting theory that this whole entire situation has ever heard. So just hold on to your butts. What's going on, Lucas?
That's a good way to put it. Again, as I'm saying, I'm completely different than him as it comes to Zack Snyder, or as I call him, Snyder Luther King Jr., for all of you people out there who follow this man and everything he does. I am not a fan of Zack Snyder's films at all, but that had nothing to do with me with Justice League Cut. I remember when this came out, I was not hype about it. I had questions about it. I kept on saying it's going to be a horrible movie. Too many different directors attached to it. There's no way this movie is going to be good. So around that time is when we started hearing about the Snyder Cut, right after Justice League flopped. For people who said it flopped, it didn't flop. It still made money, but people call it a flop. So when that happened and we started hearing about the Snyder Cut, I kept on saying, well, why would they want to do that? We had an Ultimate BVS cut. Granted, it was a little bit better than BVS, but a bad movie being not as bad of a movie still isn't a good thing. So I kept on saying, well, that makes no sense. And then we kept on going, years and years go past.
Yeah.
But it started to me as a grassroots effort to get something that fans wanted.
Yeah.
And then it switched and it turned to me to a corporate thing to put out anything to get people's attention. And I believe Warner Brothers did an amazing job at it. Let me tell you that up front and honest. I believe Warner Brothers and Zack Snyder did an amazing job of making you all think this got put out because of your efforts. It did not get put out for your efforts. It got put out because this is what they wanted to put out. About a year ago, me and Sam had a discussion about HBO Max, about the content that was coming to HBO Max. And during that discussion, I said, oh, the Snyder Cut will be on HBO Max. And in our chat, a lot of people was like, well, why would it come there? I said, well, it's content.
Hold on. I got to stop you right there. When he said that, I'm not going to lie to you. I was like, Lucas, what? What you mean? Like, Snyder Cut's coming. And like, when he said it, like, I literally had like a whiplash effect. Because you guys have heard, like, I don't even like bringing up Zack Snyder or anything related to the DCU within the confines of our big chat, because there's just so many different opinions there, and it was just too much. It was a burden on my head and on my heart, and so I was like, I'm just gonna leave it. But when Lucas said that, I was like, dang, this might actually happen. Lucas, but go ahead, continue.
And then it only made sense for it to happen because business. You're launching a big streaming service. You need a platform show, a platform movie, something to make people want to tune into it. So at that point, I believe, okay, they'll finish the cut and it'll be available around a drop of HBO Max, or they'll announce it around a drop of HBO Max. I knew that much about it. And then we're going to fast forward all the way to November 2019. All of a sudden, Zack Snyder puts out, I think he put out a little post about a cut with the film reels, about 214-minute cut, something of that nature. And then Gal Gadot, she was the key. This is around November the 12th, and she tweeted, release the Snyder Cut. And when she did it, and with the picture of it, supposed to be a picture from Justice League, and then Zack started dropping things from the set of the Justice League, I said, wait a minute. This doesn't make sense, because anything he would drop would be intellectual property of Warner Brothers. If it's property of Warner Brothers, I can no longer go along with the theory that Warner Brothers wants him to be quiet about releasing a Snyder cut, because that was the narrative that was going on out there, that Warner Brothers wanted him to be quiet about that. And I started putting two and two together and said, wait a minute, if they want him to be quiet about it, they can easily silence Zack Snyder. I hate to tell everybody out there, Snyder Luther King does not have the power to stop a studio from deciding, you know what, you won't tweet about our movies no more, you won't discuss our movies anymore, because Zack Snyder, if anything, has an amazing relationship with Warner Brothers. He started as a Warner Brothers shooter, and that's just a director that Warner Brothers may throw projects from time to time. That's how he started out. He has a great relationship with them. So if at any point in time they didn't want him to do something, I don't believe he's going to do it at all. But when a cast started tweeting out about the Snyder Cut around the time that Disney Plus was dropping, I said, wow, that's interesting, because the eyes are all on Disney right now. And again, this is not a Marvel DC thing. When I say Disney, this is strictly go to corporate level. This is Disney versus AT&T. At this point, everybody's battling for eyes on their streaming service. So I said, well, that doesn't make sense. That makes sense for them to drop all of this stuff at that point in time, because it takes a little bit of eyes off of Disney and reminds people that, hey, AT&T has something coming up. You may want to tune in, release the Snyder Cut. And then when you get actors saying release the Snyder Cut, again, there's no such thing as a ground roots effort when the people who made the project are starting to tweet about it.
Yep.
At that point, it is strictly about the corporate side of things and them pushing an agenda forward. And when I saw that they was pushing that agenda forward, then I see Zack Snyder releasing stuff constantly, see him talking about stuff constantly. I don't know how many watch parties he did with DC films, but he did a lot of them. And for him to do any form of a watch party at all with any DC film or Q&A about a DC film, guess who has to give him permission to do that? Warner Brothers has to give him permission to do that. At that point, I started putting two and two together and say, wait a minute, what is the chances that this ground roots effort that started from fans really wanting this cut got taken over by Warner Brothers, and they said, you know what, we're going to release this cut. We know we're going to release this cut, but now we need to build momentum to releasing this cut. So if you pay attention to the groundswell of momentum from November 2019 until they announced the Snyder Cut, it was huge. It had reached peak levels. All of a sudden, every major trade paper is talking about a Snyder Cut, when most of them completely ignored it. They paid no attention to people wanting that cut. That's another sign that it was something from a corporate level that was going on, because again, trade papers do not talk about things studios don't want them to talk about. Not when it comes to certain film projects. And this was one of them where they were paying too much attention to it. Anybody who pays that much attention to something, you gotta understand there's gotta be a bigger force behind it. And recently, we hear all this news. Once the Snyder Cut is announced, we hear the CEO of AT&T come out and say, well, we want to put it out. It's going to cost way more than what we thought it would when we said it was 30 million. It's going to cost more than that to put it out. He goes on to say, well, Zack has a bunch of scenes together. Zack has to put everything together so we could get a cut of the film. If we already had a completed cut of the Snyder Cut, it wouldn't cost us the amount of money it's going to cost us to finish.
Mm-hmm.
That's something people need to pay attention to, because if you think about it, all the rumors of in February, they sat down with the execs at Warner Brothers to show them the Snyder Cut. I got to ask everybody this, because it's the simplest question that I ask myself. When a director shoots a film, who owns the film? It ain't the director. It's the studio he's working for. So why would it take for Zack and his wife to hold a private meeting at their house to get HBO execs to come over there to watch a Snyder Cut, when the execs would have to bring the film with them from Warner Brothers? That makes no sense. Like, you got to put two and two together here, people. How is Zack getting all this footage? How are they showing this cut? How do we know about these assembly cuts? All of this stuff is because Warner Brothers and Zack Snyder used this time to push a product to you all. And they did it the way, unfortunately, it happens in the music industry a lot at this point. They take ground roots efforts and they push it and force it on people to make them think it's their which word I'm looking for, Sam? Their idea. Like it's their idea coming to fruition.
Yeah, they came up with the inception of the idea came from them, but it wasn't.
Yeah, And when they take it over, they still want you to think that. Again, music industry's been doing this for at least the last 10 years. The movie industry does it, but they do it slick. They do it real slick. And this was,
Mhm.
to me, one of the best things humanly possible from a marketing standpoint, because it got you all super hyped, super excited. Now you all are slapping hands with each other, talking about, look what we did, look what we did. And Warner Brothers is sitting back saying, yeah, look what y'all did. You
Yeah.
all will
So
all buy HBO Max and help us push this streaming service forward because you think you got something you wanted, when in actuality, we were going to give it to you anyway.
yeah, so just to interject there, and I can attest to everything that Lucas is saying. I've gone back and forth with him, kind of disputing it and thinking about it. If you think back to BVS, you guys, on Twitter, like ever since BVS dropped, for negative or positive, subjective, or whatever you think about it, since then, we have been talking about nothing but what Zack Snyder, what Warner Brothers has been doing or gonna do, or for the negative or for positive, between when Justice League was about to be announced or from the point that it's right now. And in no time after Justice League dropped did Warner Brothers ever comment any semblance of anything about a Snyder cut. Like there were people that were posting stuff, there were actors saying stuff, there were of course like stunt coordinators saying stuff, there were composers saying stuff, and there was never an effective moment that Warner Brothers ever said or commented about any kind of cut whatsoever. And so I would say, to Lucas's point, that's very suspicious. Like they could have easily shot the joint down and said, "Yo, there's nothing there." They were very smart and to the chest. Even when when Lucas was talking about like, this concept of the assembly cut, I was sitting there in my head, I was like, I don't know. Nobody knew exactly how much of the film was actually effectively done. Kevin Smith talked about like people that had seen, a semblance of a cut. They said it was better than what the theatrical version was. There's some people that were speculating back and forth, but nobody could really say one way or another. And I was kind of like, in my head, I was like, well, if it's not, is it actually a director's cut? If it's not a director's cut, then the ownership doesn't belong to him. And that was where I was kind of like, I was like, yo, Lucas, we might have to talk about this, because when you think back to when Zach, the tragedy befalled him with his daughter Autumn, a lot of people don't know that he worked on the Justice League film a little bit after she died, and he tried to progress forward. Some people speculate he got fired. Some people speculate that he couldn't take it. A lot of people were thinking it was just too much backlash, and so he had to kind of get out of there either way. But even then, he went and he got off of Twitter, he got off of Instagram, he went to a social media platform that nobody even heard of, Vero. And now technically Vero, bro, low key, Vero is killing the game right now, because all the attention with these commentaries and music videos and stuff like that, like artists are going there because, it really started with him, in all honesty. And from that point, that was where he put every single picture, every single like screenshot, storyboard, commentary. And even in, a lot of people I don't know if you knew, Lucas, but the director's cuts thing that he did back in March of 2019, bro, it was basically its own festival. Con, like people legit paid money and went out there and watched him, go over, of course, Man of Steel. I think he went over BVS, and he went over Dawn of the Dead, I believe. That was the first one he did. And in no time during that moment did anybody really ask that question, but there was one person that was recorded some kind of way that asked him the question like, look, Zach, does this exist? And Zach said, and I quote, "It exists. I know for a fact that it is pretty much done, but it's not up to me, it's up to Warner Brothers." He said that with his own mouth. And I was kind of like, as a director, like he didn't have to say anything. Like he could have just kept his mouth shut. But that one moment, talking to one fan, literally, it was after that point, it was kind of like, wait, what's gonna really happen with this, And so that's where I'm going back to what Lucas is saying, because now I'm looking at like, okay, let's paint a better picture of this, because I don't want you guys to perceive that you're being used or duped, because ultimately a lot of you guys, you are supporters of suicide prevention. A lot of you guys are just supporters of like superhero films in general, and some of you guys are just artists that really love to see what people can come up with conceptually, so you're getting what you want. You this is what you've been looking forward to. This is what you've been, being a diehard fan about. And I'm not talking to those people that are zealots and bullies and just trying to get platform negativity to pump something back. I'm not talking to y'all. I'm talking to the people that really just wanted to see this. You're getting what you want, but Warner Brothers could be getting exactly what they've always wanted, which is a better return on a property that at first glance, I mean, it looked like they didn't make a lot, but they technically did, so all this is very fascinating to see where this is going. And I don't know, do you have any, comments on what is this looking like moving forward?
Here's another quick question you can ask yourself. When he went to Vero, right, and he started streaming on there, how much money do you think Warner Brothers made off of that? How many people know that WarnerMedia is actually a part owner of that service?
I think they know now, because when the whatchamacallit, a lot of, who was it? I forget the chick's name. Grace Randolph. She said, I don't know how she knew, but Grace Randolph said, and I quote, she said, look, Warner Brothers, or she said WarnerMedia, are gonna allow Zack time to announce this before they do, but it's gonna happen. And like, what does she mean by that?
And they made sure to ask him possibly to take it off of all the major streaming platforms and put it on this little known one that's starting up that they own a piece of it, and say, hey, how about you take this project over there with you? We'll release little things here and there, because again, the ground roots effort for it is already there. So we already have the support of it. Now we're just gonna kind of take it over and use it to market, which everybody does. I mean, how many of you currently out there have TikTok? Almost everybody does at this point.
Everybody.
Do you think when a Drake releases a song on TikTok, it's because he really believes in that song? No, it's a marketing tool. That's all they did. So it has nothing to do with you all. So don't ever believe that the support that you showed for it doesn't matter. It does.
Yeah, exactly.
Clearly, that's the reason I call him Snyder Luther King, because clearly you all will follow him to the ends of the earth for this movie. But understand that WarnerMedia had an objective to reach. And to me, they reached that objective by just flooding you with stuff about the Snyder Cut. And then magically, a week before HBO Max wants to launch, they decide to drop it, and then they become the #1 Twitter topic for how many hours or how many days has gone past where people can't not mention the Snyder Cut. Guess what that does? It's name recognition for HBO Max, because right next to the Snyder Cut, it says only on HBO Max.
Yeah, I mean,
it's all there for you.
I'm gonna say this, and this is really kind of like a shout out / just looking at it as an impossible scenario. Like, when was it? I think it was it February or was it March of was it February? Let me look at it. I mean, make sure I get the right time frame when Gal Gadot. It was November. It was November of 2019. I remember when, some of my friends that really were like really diehard about like, yo, this is the moment. This is the time that we have to let Warner Brothers know. But the thing was, when they said that, I was kind of like, why you said that? I asked one of my friends, I was like, why this date, And it was almost felt like it was alluded to that Warner Brothers was looking for this to be a momentum build. And I think Grace Randolph had even said, and I normally don't talk about Grace, but she was on point with this, because she actually said, look, Warner Brothers is going to see this. If you want this to, progress faster, let them know. And that day, Release the Snyder Cut as a hashtag went for 48 hours at the top rank, to the point that Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, all the big characters that really don't have any reason to benefit from, this.
None at all.
If anything, it kind of like diminishes what they're trying to do progressively with this, soft boot or soft reboot. But they still, put their heart out there. And I think that us as fans, we're kind of like, yo, I'm glad you're showing support to a guy that, put you on. Like technically Gal Gadot got put on by Zack. And, Ben, Ben's been suffering, bro. Like this week, Ben Affleck went on the Kevin Smith joint and basically like said, I'm really happy for Zack. I'm really happy that this is happening for him. Couldn't happen to a better guy. And I was like, but Ben, like, you lost everything, bro. Like, you went into rehab twice. Like, you lost your family. Like, you lost your health. Like, over this role and over this circumstance, after everything that happened, even after Zack left, like, I went back because Lucas was talking to me about it. Like, he didn't like the way the script was going either way from when it was initially there and then after the reshoots were done, when all these different Cook started getting in there. He was like, man, I can't handle this. And then he was trying to, all right, I'm going to take my hands off of it. I'm going to focus in on my movie. And then he walked away from that. And it's like, when I think about like everything he went through, I'm like, bruh, but he's still in there, And so, I mean, it's almost impossible not to see the writing on the wall that there's other things
Yes.
at work on Warner Brothers side that's trying to pump it. Do you remember when Warner Brothers went to Ben Affleck's house?
Yes. Yes.
And I
And
asked you,
everybody asks, why did they go to Ben Affleck's house? The head of Warner Brothers at that time,
yeah,
to meet with Ben. He was fresh out of rehab. Why are you
yeah,
sitting to meet with Ben Affleck with the script in hand? Like it was so many questions of, well, why are you talking to Ben at this point in time? So it was
exactly.
speculation about, well, maybe that was about the Batman movie and Ben was actually going to do it. At the whole time, though, everything was out. Writing was on the wall that Matt Reeves wanted to cast a new Batman and that Ben wanted to not be Batman anymore. So again,
Exactly.
what was that meeting for? These are things you got to ask yourself questions about as it
Yeah,
pertains to a cut, to a film that Ben is still listed as a producer on
yeah,
and still will be listed as a producer on it. So
yeah,
anything that has to do with the cut in a way, he is going to be involved in it, just not possibly in front of the camera, just behind it. Like these are things
yeah,
that you got to ask yourself questions about. But again, if you're getting what you wanted, shouldn't matter anyway. In the
yeah,
end, if you're getting exactly what you want, it shouldn't matter. Don't let other people like me, and I'll say like me, don't let other people like me kill your joy and take away the point that you're getting a Snyder Cut movie. I can tell
exactly.
you, as I've said to Sam constantly, I see no positives in releasing this movie besides the business aspect of it. And what I mean by that, not that the movie will be horrible and nobody will like it. Granted, I believe it's going to be really, really bad. I'm not going to lie there. But if it's really, really bad, it becomes a situation where it can hurt the remainder of the films. If it's really, really good, it can hurt the remainder of the films. It's on both sides. It's literally no reason besides HBO Max to ever have this film released. I
Yeah,
mean, in history, have anyone ever heard of a groundswell of support and a studio caving in to release a film? No, it doesn't happen at
nah,
all.
not this fast. Not this fast.
No,
Like
it
not
normally
even not
takes
even
it
to this
normally takes
level.
10 to 20 years
Yeah,
to get that type of cut to redone and have them put it out to the masses for people to see. Has
yeah,
anyone heard anything about Joss Whedon wanting the other cut of Age of Ultron or what he actually did to be released? No. You don't hear Alan Taylor talking about, hey, well, he was very vocal on Thor 2 not being the film that he shot.
yeah,
Nothing about it. David Ayers now is coming out talking about, well, it won't take much to do a Suicide Squad cut. And to me, the only reason he's opening his mouth right now is because Warner Brothers told him to. He said,
I
hey,
was literally I was about to.
he said, hey, we can talk about this now because we have a service to drop things like this on.
Yeah,
And
on.
that's
Yeah,
the key factor here. You have to understand just how much Warner Media, AT&T, Warner Brothers, whatever you want to call them, how important HBO Max is to them.
yeah,
And if they got to pull back these old things and give director's cuts, special cuts, no matter what, they will drop it on this service because it gets eyes on the service. How many people would love to see a David Ayer's Suicide Squad cut. Clearly, it's a completely different movie than the one you got in theaters. When you talk about Jared Leto and him saying most of my scenes were cut from the movie.
40 minutes worth? I was like, what
I mean,
the heck?
not too many people remember when David Ayers talked about Suicide Squad. He literally said it was supposed to be about a 3-hour movie. A 3-hour character study is what they said. And Warner Brothers was like, nope, that's not going to work for us.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing with the Snyder Cut. Why not do it at this point? Even though right now they're talking about the budget ballooning to 30 to 50 mil, somewhere in that range, that's still the price of a nicely built series or a mid-range movie, which you would pay anyway to drop on HBO Max. Instead,
it's just crazy though, the timing of it, Lucas, though. Like, if you looked at everything on the outside surface, and I went over, I don't know if y'all saw my 1-hour video. I went on like this huge, exhausting tangent and rant about everything that I really felt negative and positive about this whole entire thing. But one of the things I kept on circling around was that this is the perfect timing. Like, we are in a pandemic. Right now, VFX artists aren't really doing much. This is giving them something to do. There's no major production like right now that's going to start until like August at this point. And it's kind of just like, man, like the timing of this, and especially in the moment of the streaming, like in the midst of a pandemic, it's insane timing. But then at the same time, it's kind of like, was, Warner Brothers and AT&T and everybody just playing the long game. Not to say that they knew that this was going to happen.
They didn't know the pandemic, but they knew the timing.
The timing
pay attention to the timing. That's the
Yeah.
most important thing here.
Yeah.
What DC movie is set to drop in 2020? Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
That's it. And according to James Gunn, it's film. He's completely filmed the film. He said there should be no delay.
Oh, in the Batman.
No.
Yeah.
Did they move the Batman?
2021. Yeah, Batman is. Nah, I think it's still on track. Let me look it up real quick. The Batman, I think it's still on track for the back end of 2021.
Yeah. 2021.
October 2021. Yeah.
So think about it. You get Wonder Woman 84 in hopefully August. And then you drop Snyder Cut, I'm assuming around May or June, which was slotted into a normal movie slot.
Yep.
9 times out of 10. And again, this is me being even more conspiracy theories in my head. What Marvel movie comes out in 2021 in May? Whatever Marvel movie comes out at that time, expect the Snyder Cut to drop either a week before or on the exact same weekend it drops.
Wow.
It is what it is. This is what studios do. Again, it's not a DC versus Marvel thing. It is a Warner Brothers versus Disney versus Comcast versus Paramount thing. They tend to like to do stuff of that nature.
So right now the track is February 2021, you got the Eternals. In May 7th, you got the Shang-Chi film. And then in November 2021, you got Spider-Man. But that's it. Because everything else is on the Disney Plus platform.
Yeah. So in other words, if you drop the Snyder Cut at the same time of that Marvel movie you mentioned that no one really cares about, where do you think the eyes are going to go to? It's going to go to the Snyder Cut. And again, as we said, whether it's good or whether it's bad, it's going to get attention. And it's going to make you want to see the next DC film. Because if it's horrible, you're going to want, time isn't going to go by fast enough for you to see Suicide Squad if this Justice League cut is horrible. But if it's great, you're going to want to see more DC superheroes. Guess what? We have this new Suicide Squad coming out that you can see with James Gunn. Like, the timing is everything to me here. And I'm not lost on that. Again, most people counted it for the pandemic. I heard a lot of people saying, well, it's because of the pandemic that they did this. Like, no, this was always the plan. It just so happens during the pandemic, it took way more attention out of the news media than they thought it would.
Yeah. And that's I mean, it's two different points that I want to kind of go into. I'm really curious your thought on. when it came to David Ayer, a lot of people, I mean, I know you know, Lucas, but when it dropped, like David Ayer was kind of like, he went on record because somebody was like, yo, what you said all these scenes are missing from Jared Leto, like what happened? Like he said, and I quote, I think, you know what, yep, those scenes are definitely missing, but I stand behind this film. You know, this is, you know, the film that I am coming out with, and I'm going to support, you know, my team. And that's he left it as that. And then like after that, he started getting pulled off of certain projects. He was no longer associated with the Gotham Sirens, as well as some other stuff. And he ended up going, I think, to Netflix for Bright. When he was at San Diego Comic-Con, he kind of alluded that like he kind of got shortchanged, but he never said Warner Brothers shortchanged him. He never said it. He's never badmouthed Warner Brothers at any moment. It's not until last week that he was just like all of a sudden showing pictures that we've never seen. We were asking him like, bro, do you have any footage of any of this? He was like, I don't got no footage of it. Do you have any pictures of this? He ain't got no pictures of it. Now he's just all of a sudden just throwing stuff, and like AT&T is backing it up with their tweet rants, and like HBO Max is just kind of liking the post, and I'm kind of like, bro, they about to drop that joint too simultaneously, because from my understanding, when Zack was working on Justice League, he was also working with David Ayer for I think the third act of the movie, because it had a lot of to do with Apocalypse and Steppenwolf.
Yes.
And I think that the whole back half of that movie was supposed to be about the invasion, or the prequel, so to speak, of the invasion that was going to come for Justice League. So it's kind of like, you can understand why Warner Brothers changed the ending to David Ayers, because they didn't want anything to do with what Zack was trying to do at that time. But it's kind of like now you got like a film that claims by David Ayer that it don't really need that much. Like, what if they double teamed and put both of those out on the same year? I don't think they would, but
why not? Actually, if HBO Max needs content, which we all know it does, why not drop both of them in the same year?
That's crazy though.
Especially if they're going to drop Suicide Squad, you have to get it out in enough time where it gives it space to breathe before the James Gunn version of Suicide Squad comes out. So in all honesty, if David Ayers now all of a sudden magically is saying it would take nothing to put this cut together, why not just put it together? If you're Warner Brothers, let's say it takes 10 to 15 million to actually just put his cut together, because we know the scenes are completed, because they were going to attempt to use those for Harley Quinn Joker movie. So we know the scenes are completely done, and probably VFX is done on everything.
Yeah.
Just put it together and drop it.
Dang, because it releases August 6th of 2021. So they could.
Beginning of the year 2021, you announce it like a couple of weeks before you drop it, that you're going to do a special edition, or they'll call it a director's cut. They're not going to call it the Ayers cut. Snyder cut is a name that has momentum. They'll call it Suicide Squad Ultimate Edition or director's cut, and drop it. And it'll be the exact cut that David Ayers wanted to do, which means it'll be 3 hours long. And hopefully it'll explain a lot of stuff. And it switches the villain according to David Ayers in the movie. And it makes the villain more the Joker than Enchantress. Like it will be an interesting thing to do. And at this point, nothing's off the table for Warner Brothers. They need content for HBO Max.
I mean, it's crazy though.
How bad they need that content right now.
It's crazy though, because when you think about what they have in the cut though, they got a J.J. Abrams Justice League Dark ready. You know, like he's already signed on for that. They've got a Green Lantern series ready. And it's kind of like, if they double down this the right way and it takes off, you know, they really could put whatever they really want to up there, and people are just going to gravitate towards, because people they're behind, you know, the animated stuff. They're all the way behind like all the nostalgic stuff that Warner Brothers owns. And so my question to you, Lucas, was that if Justice League is a better all-around film, some kind of a way, right? And I agree with you. Like it could be a catch-22, because if it's better, then you question like, wait, what happened? Like, why didn't you, and then people start speculating like, wait, why don't we put this person back? And I'm one of those ones that think that what they're doing now, as far as the standalone and like Elseworld, Creative Freedom, whatever they're trying to do with the soft boot or whatever, I'm okay with it. Like, I think that they should keep that condensed to where it is. But if this Justice League film does very well and it actually is very good, why not continue that trend on HBO Max instead? That way you don't have to worry about undercutting both margins, because it's gonna be hard to sell, because there's gonna be people that's gonna be like, yo, this should be on the theaters, not on streaming. But
Well,
I don't know.
think about it this way, and it's the another interesting part of this whole Warner Brothers situation here. What would actually stop them from continuing? Most people would think, well, because they cast a new Batman, they definitely did a young Batman that would have nothing to do with the current timeline if you wanted to continue to do a second part to the Justice League.
Wait. Everything they have right now doesn't have anything to do with the current timeline.
What doesn't?
Wonder Woman doesn't.
Yes, it
Batman
does.
doesn't.
Keep in mind, Wonder Woman is still in the past, so she clearly has to still do with the timeline. Aquaman still has to do with the timeline. Everything they've done has to do with the timeline. You don't look at the things that are like side projects, the Shazams or a new Suicide Squad, but they're not throwing away the old Suicide Squad because Harley is still in it, and some of the people from the other Suicide Squad movie are in this Suicide Squad movie. The only true difference was Robert Pattinson being cast as Batman, but Ben Affleck is playing an older Batman. So what would stop them if this movie is wildly successful? Which again, I don't see, but let me put my imaginary hat on. It's wildly successful. This is only supposed to be a part one. So you actually still have a part two to Zack's Justice League that would need to be shot. Depending on the measure of success, you can throw $150 million on a film and drop it on a streaming service. See The Irishman or any of these other huge movies that Netflix pays 150 million to drop it on their streaming service. If you could do that and then drop it on the streaming service and still say, hey, this is extra content we're giving you. This has nothing to do with the films that are going into theaters. This is the way Warner Brothers and AT&T or whoever it is will clearly word it. This is for our fans. We're making this room for we're putting on a streaming service, or the people who have the streaming service. This is to show that we appreciate you all and we want to continue the story with Zack to give y'all completion. Now, this is only contingent on if the movie is good. If it is what I think it will be, then they will sweep this under the rug and act like it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's very simple here. It's business 101 here. If the product is good, when I drop it, I will give you more of that product. If it is bad, we're going to act like it never happened. I la Green Lantern, like we'll act like it never happened with no problem.
I can't disagree with you on that. It's insane to think about, because I don't know if they're gonna even drop this Snyder cut as a 6-part series thing, or if they're gonna drop it as a whole movie. What do you think is a better thing for them to do?
They need to drop it as a movie and not one. I don't think it will be pleasing at all to watch as a series. Because it's too much cutting there. Then you got to stop it here, cut it here, give you another episode, cut it here, give you another. No, I don't. If the movie's 5 hours, drop the 5 hour. It doesn't matter. People are going to watch it anyway. Let people decide. They will do what Netflix did for The Irishman. I don't know if it was in the US, but I know in other parts of the world they did it for The Irishman, where they actually put interludes in the middle at certain cuts where you could pause it yourself and come back at another time and pick up from that point. They did that and staged it like that. That would be the way to do this movie. We all know that Zack Snyder doesn't like an editor. He doesn't like an editor. He's going to give you as much of a film as humanly possible. If he could give you an 18-hour version of Justice League, he would give you an 18-hour version of Justice League. Just put the whole thing out there and let the people decide how they want to watch it. Don't piece it together. Week-to-week releases would be horrible for this.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree, but I worry that they're going to go down that route, because what that would cause is people to have to come back week to week, and that would give them what, 2 months, maybe 2 or 3 months worth, depending on the amount of weeks that they release in the increment.
But that's another catch-22.
That's what I'm saying.
If that first chapter is bad, no one's coming back. I don't care. You'll get the diehards who want to see it, but the goal, as it is with any of these comic book things that drop, it is to get the general audience excited to see it. The general audience is not going to be excited to see this cut up into a series. Drop a long movie. Let them decide how they want to watch the movie. That's it.
I can't remember. There was some director that took a movie and broke it up into a series. Was it Quentin Tarantino? Did he do that for the Hateful Eight, I think, or Kill Bill?
Kill Bill. Kill Bill was one movie. That was one whole movie, and he cut it up into volume 1 and volume 2.
Yeah.
But you can't even do that with Justice League, because technically
the way that was
part
done.
1.
Yeah.
This is just part 1.
Yeah.
Let's drop the whole movie and let people decide how they want to view it. Doesn't matter. People are going to watch it. I don't care how long people are going to watch it. If it's a piece of shit, they're going to create a drinking game around it and do something of that nature to it. It's perfectly. You know how many drinking games I was involved in for BVS? Like it happens that way. Like every time Superman or every time Batman kills somebody, take a drink. You know how many drinks you have to take in BVS for every time Batman kills somebody? Like, you'll create things of that nature to keep people interested. That's it.
He's not lying, you guys. We actually did like a whole commentary on Batman vs Superman that I have not released out to the public, because it just went left.
Or Man of Steel.
It went left. It's somewhere just stuck on, like, do you want to publish this? No. But you got any closing thoughts, Lucas, on just, I mean, I guess we can basically state that HBO Max and Warner Brothers, they got to win out of this no matter what. Yes. They got a W. But the road to where this is going to lead is a very interesting one.
That's the big win for them.
That's going to be the interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
it's like you never question as a kid when your parents gave you something that you really, really wanted, if they were going to give it to you the entire time anyway. So why question it here? Well, they're giving you something you want. Well, for the people that want it. For the people that don't want it, suck it up and deal with it. I have to, so you have to. Suck it up and deal with it. It's gonna happen. But enjoy it while you have it, because again, if it's bad, you will never see it again. They will sweep this under the rug with no problem at all. If it's good, maybe they'll branch off and give you more stuff just to try to close out that chapter of it. But either way, it's coming out. Get prepared. Over the next how many ever months it takes before they drop it, you're going to hear about it all the time. I don't know what you people who really push release the Snyder, what are y'all going to do from now until they come out? Because you can't keep on saying release the Snyder cut, because it's coming out now. So you got to find something else to do with your time. Don't jump on David Ayer's cut, though. Pick a better battle. That's not a battle you want to pick at all. Pick a better battle.
Look, I'm gonna say, go advocate for those Marvel Netflix shows, you guys. Advocate for Swamp Thing. Go and watch Swamp Thing on CW and bring that up.
You know what? That's exactly that. All you Snyder Cut people, go watch Swamp Thing. That show had no business being canceled. Go watch Swamp Thing. Enjoy it.
Whole heart,
Maybe they'll bring that back. Don't say anything about those Netflix shows. Let them die. They are exactly what they need to be.
We said we were gonna be good, Luke.
Hey, look, you brought up those Netflix Marvel shows. Listen here, you get one good season, and out the one good season, you normally get 5 good episodes out of 13. They don't need to continue. Let them go.
Oh my goodness, I can definitely rock it with what Lucas is saying when it comes to Swamp Thing. If you guys really give it a chance. Go to the CW when it releases out there in the fall. Definitely watch it. We might get a season 2. They might even pump it on HBO Max. Who knows? At this point, I really can't predict where things are going to go, but I know that right now, what HBO Max is doing, they are doing something that's insane. And if you guys that are supporting Zack Snyder and supporting what DC is doing, you need to go ahead and buy HBO Max, like for real. Like if you really are gung ho, then just go ahead and get it at this point,
Yeah, might as
because
well get it over with. I mean, and then Zach, one day when this quarantine is over, I'm pretty sure Zach will have y'all meet him at the mall in Washington D.C. to give a big speech about the Snyder Cut, because Snyder Luther King, that's the type of things he does, and
oh
I'm
my
pretty
god,
sure he would love all of his followers to be there as he talks about it and how he had a dream that one day the Snyder Cut would be released and all y'all can all meet, hug it out, talk to each other, like see some sunlight, because some of y'all ain't seen sunlight in years because y'all been on them computers typing for that entire time about release the Snyder Cut.
oh
So
my
just
goodness.
again, enjoy this time. Take it as a win. Even if the win really wasn't a win, still take it that way. It is what it is.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you guys, it's still a gift. Like at the end of
Yes.
the day, it's something that it's going to be entertainment. This is only a day. Like it's just a movie. This is only a
Yes.
series. It's only a franchise. It's not worth bad mouthing, threatening, or whatever you're doing. To get clout or to get approval or to feel like you have to be better than somebody else because of your opinion about something. Like it's not about that. Like it's about entertainment. So try to take time and enjoy it and be nice to each other, you guys. Like try. Like me and this man like have completely different
Hey,
opinion
but
about this director. But this is my homie. Lucas is like my dog, man. So it's kind of like if we can get along, you can get along. And I was
exactly.
almost gonna steal that quote from the Rocky movie, but I'm not gonna do it. Anyway, we're gonna go. Where can everybody find you, Lucas? I know you're on Twitter.
Wow, that's a good question. Oh, JVS, clearly. As I'm constantly dropping movie reviews and TV reviews. There you go. See? It ain't even that
Oh,
hard to see.
oh my god. Hold on. What's your Twitter, man? Lucas,
Oh
Lucas, Lucas.
man, look, that's
All
an
right, you guys.
awesome.
You can follow Lucas at let_me_b_ G as in George 82. Follow him on Twitter. I'll put it in the description bar below, you guys. But definitely, it's probably one of the best critics I know in the DMV area, and really good dude. We definitely gonna have more discussions, civil discussions, and crazy discussions in the future. And by the time when this drops, okay, Lucas, I'm gonna ask you on air. When this
Mhm.
drops, do you want to have a discussion about
Oh, of
it?
course, and understand my opinion will be unfiltered. If this
Oh,
movie
it's
is
always
bad, I will let you know you got what you wish for. Like it is what it is to me. It is what it is. I would love to discuss this movie, as I love to discuss all of Zack Snyder's movies. You just won't release my discussion on Man of Steel.
I won't. I'm
Yeah,
not doing it. I ain't doing it. I could do it, but I'm not doing it.
I'm about to say,
The next time, if we do it again, I just need you to not drink. That's all.
hey,
Just don't drink, and we
no,
can do it.
that's the only way I'm gonna get through Man of Steel. Is look here after that Avatar beginning, like that's the only way I'm gonna get through it is if I drink. That's it. I
Yeah.
can't get through that movie any other
I
way.
think after the first act, like he was down and out, you guys. Yeah, matter of fact, I think anyway. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys that gave you a really fresh perspective on this. And this is not a negative slight towards Warner Brothers or HBO Max. Matter of fact, it's the complete opposite because you guys are geniuses. And like from a business move like this, if any semblance of what we're talking about is actually factual information, like this might be one of the most interesting things in cinematic history moving forward to like the streaming platform in general. Like this is actually really fascinating. It's really fascinating. Anyway, we're gone. Peace, guys.